years talking about this, going around together. And we make the case that sometimes some of the audience will say, well, the Republicans did it in Wisconsin, but you Democrats would have if you'd have been in charge. And I say that's right. You should worry about that because the Democrats gerrymandered in Illinois, in Massachusetts, and Maryland, Rhode Island, Republicans in Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina, among others. So this is an abuse of power thing. It's just either party gets total control. They can't resist abusing power. And that's what Dale and I are trying to stop by adopting the Iowa system, which I think some of you are familiar with, and we can talk about some more if you want to.
Well, I'd like to begin by saying how impressed I am with this group this morning, and want to thank you for your efforts to help end gerrymandering. The process by which Tim and I have gone around the state has been pretty simple. We just get in the car and we've done well over 100 presentations to groups, and I tell you, it's a lot easier when you can do them on Zoom without having all the driving, although we've had a lot of fun laughing and telling stories from our past as we've driven around. I want to say to you that gerrymandering isn't the only problem in politics, but I learned a long time ago, if you want to be successful, you have to focus your efforts, and that's exactly what we've done here. I think that both Tim and I are well aware of the corrosive effects of unlimited campaign contributions that we now have in the system. But the first thing that has to be dealt with is gerrymandering. And I want to say to you, your efforts have made this movement already successful. That may sound strange to some of you in that we have not won at the U.S. Supreme Court, but we have certainly won in the arena of public opinion. All groups, identifiable groups, independents, Republicans, and Democrats have embraced the idea of gerrymandering reform, and that has totally shut down the argument that the public really doesn't care. This is just inside baseball. And now we're literally engaging politicians and eliminating their excuses for not dealing with this. And that's where you come in. That's what I know you're going to be doing in the future. And again, I want to thank you for your efforts.
Thank you both very much for being here. So we did get some really great questions submitted from our team. So maybe we'll dive right in. So first question is, how do you see the fight to end gerrymandering playing out in Wisconsin?
Well, the first time something will happen that matters is this November's elections. If the Republicans were to pick up 3 seats in each house, they would have 2/3 majority in both houses. What that means is that they could pass another map like today's map. The Governor Evers could veto it, and they would have a 2/3 majority in both houses to override his veto, and therefore their map would be in place. That might be contested in court. That's the first step. And then it's going to be what's going to happen in 2021. The governor has this commission, which we hope, believe, we wrote an article about it in the Wisconsin State Journal last Sunday. We hope and believe that we know we will have out of that process, his commission, a fair map, hopefully the Iowa system. And so we'll have something to compare and show the people of Wisconsin. And a gerrymander map will look so awful compared to a map drawn according to the Iowa standards that it'll be at the Republicans' peril, I think, long-term to just ignore it. And then there's the courts. Who goes to court? What court? Democrats would probably go to a federal judge. Republicans will run to the state Supreme Court if it gets in that area. So we don't know really all the events of 2021. One thing we know is that the election of 2020 actually has an impact on this, depending on how it turns out.
Well, I think that how things play out will be largely determined by the amount of enthusiasm we can whip up in the state. If we can get a wave going, I think it will end relatively quickly, and we're at a unique time in our history where people are concerned about voting rights. They're concerned about political corruption. And if we continue to articulate the facts and you know, the points that we've been making, I don't see how we can be anything but successful. But it will depend on appealing to the hearts and minds of all those legislators, and also applying a good deal of pressure, letting them know that we're one issue voters, and we're not going to take no for an answer, but we're going to be polite about making those points.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Here's another question we got. So can you share some examples of issues you feel would have been resolved and legislation passed if the legislative districts were not so gerrymandered?
I think we would for sure have, we would not have all this voter suppression stuff and making it more difficult for college kids and senior citizens to vote with all these ID requirements. You have a picture ID at your college, or you have it, but you know you don't. Well, then you got the other college does. It's all, and they shortened the time in which you could cast votes before the election day. None of that would have passed except for gerrymandering.
In different regions around Wisconsin, groundwater quality and surface water quality are huge issues. That's certainly true in South Central and Southwestern Wisconsin. I believe we would have seen real bipartisan progress had we not been so partisanly divided, and chiefly around the whole notion of gerrymandering. It wasn't that long ago, Wisconsin was a national leader when it came to water quality, the Great Lakes Compact probably being the last and most significant of those pieces of legislation. But we can recapture that lead again if we can find a way to break down some of this partisanship and get people to be thinking about issues rather than what some billionaire is paid for in terms of policy from one political party or another.
Thank you. Good reminders of why this is important. All right, another question that was submitted. How can we access information channels to Republicans? So we know that we're having more luck with Democrats and Republicans getting this message across. So newsletters, websites, blogs that would be willing to share our write-ups and other information about fair voting districts. How can we get them involved in efforts and to end gerrymandering?
Maybe you should start that one, Dale.
Well, I'm not certain I understand the question. Are you talking about Republican legislators or Republicans in general?
I think channels that Republicans use, so whether that's maybe different newspapers, different websites, blogs, are there specific places maybe where Republicans are getting their information where we could help make an impact?
Well, I think that most of the information that's coming to Republicans now are coming from, just like I would suggest is true of Democrats, from constituencies, parts of coalitions. And they tend, those coalitions tend to be partisan. So it's hard to get access to that unless you have somebody that happens to be a member of that coalition. You know, for Republicans, it might be the NRA or Pro-Life Wisconsin. For the Democrats, it would be various labor organizations or environmental organizations. But what I've discovered is still true in Wisconsin, as it has always been, is that the world is not as monolithic as some people like to pretend it is. There are Republicans who care about the environment. I know that. I've worked with them over the years. I know that there are Republicans who care about labor issues. And I know there are Democrats who care about business and who are ardent supporters of the Second Amendment. So I think what we need to do is get them to encourage their organization to be, their nonpartisan organizations or affiliations to be a little bit more bipartisan. And I think we have a unique opportunity with the NRA right now because it's under an enormous amount of pressure by the Attorney General from New York and Republicans writing in or talking to representatives of the NRA and saying, look, we'd like some changes here, and we'd like this to be, you know, a small d democratic organization again. And there's some things that we are concerned about, gun safety and laws that prohibit ownership of guns by people who are mentally ill. I mean, for a long time, that was an NRA policy. It isn't any longer, but you have to open a dialogue if you're going to make a difference.
Good points. Thank you.
And there's two more issues that I think without gerrymandering and this enormous pressure and money to stick with a team and never work with the other team at all, other side at all. Both Governor Evers and former Governor Tommy Thompson both wanted to raise the gas tax. Tommy's busy now running the University of Wisconsin, and I'm glad he's there. But they didn't get together, and it was too bad. Also, they both want prison reform. Tommy wants prison reform, Governor Evers does. But they haven't been able to get together, and I think all this partisan bitterness, my side against your side, prevented that from happening, even though they both had the same position on those important issues.
Yeah, actually, maybe I'll dig a little deeper on that because today is primary election day. And so can you help tease out for us a little bit how gerrymandering increases the partisan divide?
Well, it's the ultimate aim is to get a solid block of votes to give yourself an obscene partisan advantage. And when you do that, you signal that you have no interest in working with the other side. Let me just tell you about something that happened the last time I was down at Platteville speaking to students down there. I suggested boldly that I thought that the young Democrats and the young Republicans should get together to work on some issues. And to my absolute delight, I found out that they had already made plans to do that. And I know you have a connection to, you know, the university at Stout and River Falls. I would plant that seed with students because I see this younger generation recognizing that the problems that they're going to face over their lifetime are not being handled by the current political establishment very well. And I think they'd be very open to that kind of a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
We should listen to the kids. If we had in my earlier days, we'd have got out of Vietnam, the Vietnam War a lot faster if we'd listened to the students.
Yeah. And do you feel that because of gerrymandering, candidates that tend to win in the primaries are a little bit maybe more extreme in their party, a little less moderate?
Well, I don't think there's any question that the whole idea of gerrymandering is discipline. And when people are not disciplined, the party leadership tends to say things like, we are going to primary you. And for most politicians, that just means work and frustration and, you know, a lot of pain for themselves and their family. And, you know, that's how it's achieved. And I think what we need to do is remind the people that we send there that we have their back when it comes to issues like this. And we want to reward leadership, and we prize independent thinking. And, you know, if you're just going to go there and let somebody else make all the decisions for you, beginning with the most important decision, this notion of gerrymandering, then there really isn't any reason for any of us to do anything but try to get rid of you.
Mm-hmm. Great. What are the most important things for us as individuals or as a group to do to bring about the end of gerrymandering?
Well, you're doing a lot of it, but as you go around and do everything, the structure you have set up and the committees, et cetera, one of the things that I found got people's attention as Dale and I went around the state, because we talked about gerrymandering, and it was hard. People, especially in the early years, it wasn't a visceral issue to them. It wasn't like how you feel about abortion or education or the environment or the things that really get you going. People didn't see gerrymandering as having, one of those kinds of issues. They worried about those visceral issues. And I started telling them, these legislators, the day the maps are drawn, not on election day, the day the maps are drawn and their one vote, they guarantee themselves a job for the next 10 years just by their vote to create these maps. Guaranteed job for 10 years, $53,000 a year plus 10,000 or more in benefits. And they can't get beat. They got charged with a felony, they might win. Not convicted, but charged. And then I would say to the audience, that's what I'm suggesting maybe you folks might want to do. I would say to them, how many of you in the job you have, unless you own the company, how many of you in the job you have, by you taking one action, can guarantee yourself your own job for the next 10 years? And that sort of got a little bit of a visceral reaction in the audience about gerrymandering.
And once they have that guaranteed 10 years worth of service in their pocket, they've been figuring out that it's very easy to just ignore people and maybe not even meet with them. And, it can be done to change people's minds. I know in southwestern Wisconsin, two assemblymen, Representative Travis Tranel and Todd Novak, have switched and are supporting a change, but their response could be stronger. But little by little, we're turning the Republican caucus, and we're getting people to sign on. We just have to keep it going until we reach a critical mass.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that was actually one of Jan's questions. Maybe you saw it in the chat there, but who else in the caucus is supporting this cause that we should also be supporting? So you mentioned two. I think there's also Jeff Mursaw, and I believe maybe Dale or Tim or Carlene, you could help out. I believe there are two other names to add to that list.
Off the top, I think there might be three more. I just can't think of the names.
There's a guy up in the Fox Valley.
Lauren Oldenburg, Joel Kitchens, Jeff Mursaw, Travis Tranel, and Todd Novak. Those are the five.
So it's
Awesome.
5 right now.
Thank you.
Oldenburg is from Crawford County.
Great.
Right, Oldenburg from Crawford and Vernon, and a little bit of Monroe.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think one of the things that's most impressive about Jeff Mursaw is that he put the question directly to his constituents in a question of the week, and a very conservative district. And they came back and said by 78% that they favored nonpartisan redistricting, and he signed on.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it should be seen as a strength when the legislator does a temperature check and changes course in what they're doing in the legislature. That's not a weakness, and I certainly congratulate him for doing that. Make sure you let them know that. It's important that they recognize that we all have their back.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's one role that we can maybe add. I don't know if we've done that yet, but I think, yeah, encouraging people who have taken that step. So I'd like to take a moment. Last week there was a debate between two the current incumbent in the 93rd Assembly District, Warren Petrick, and Charlie Warner, who's the Democratic candidate running against him. And in this debate, they asked them specifically about ending gerrymandering. And the answers were interesting, but I thought it would be helpful if Dale and Tim, you would be willing to help us understand the responses that they gave and kind of pull them apart for us. So I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's a little bit long, but I'm just going to play a about a minute from Petrick's response, original response when he was asked, would you support ending gerrymandering? And then maybe we can talk about that for a minute. And then if there's time, I'll play a little bit of Warner's response as well, and you can help us understand that a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and play the first part here.
So Bruce's question, Warren, good idea?
Well, it's great to talk about. It's an interesting topic. And for, I believe since 1848, the legislature's job is to draw fair, contiguous, equal representation maps. It's been done by both parties as they are charged in their constitution. It's very clear. Redistricting should be done by the legislature. The courts have often gotten involved, and they may in the future. I don't have a crystal ball, but I would imagine that whoever draws the maps, whichever party it is, whether the Republicans or the Democrats, that the governor may or may not approve of them. And depending on that action, of course, it may end up in the courts, and as did 10 years ago. The courts took it up. They made a few tweaks, basically changed a couple of places in Milwaukee that had a minority situation. And so they looked at that and they felt the maps were just fine. So my belief has always been a good case.
All right.
I'll take this one first. Look, he's just factually wrong. And if you look at the Constitution, it doesn't say anything about the legislature drawing the map. It says the legislature has to vote on the map. And, you know, these constitutions around the country aren't completely dissimilar from one another. And we've had a growing number of states recognize that there is an inherent problem when you allow legislators to draw the maps, particularly in this era when we have so much computing power and technology available to accumulate data on individuals. You know, people who draw these maps now can tell you with, you know, 98 degree of confidence that the outcome of the election will be thus and such. And that's not the people selecting their legislators, that's legislators selecting their people or constituents. And we need to change that. So I don't know whether the representative is aware of what the Constitution says or whether he's deliberately misleading. I don't think it's particularly good to cast aspersions without knowing. But I do know this, that in that kind of a setting, I would embed it in the question, you know, in a future debate, that this is what the Constitution says. I would supply some information with that, and a legal scholar, and then I would say, you know, how do you feel about it now? And I would point out that in Congress for many years, incumbents have not lost, and now we have brought that to Wisconsin. How can we have accountability in government when the people who get there never lose?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the key, I've heard that explanation, I bet you 10 times from other legislators across the state. That's the canned response. Thing to always just focus in on is when he uses the word draw, the legislature must draw the maps. He's used that word. The word draw is nowhere in the Constitution. Yes, the legislature eventually has to pass some form of maps, but they are not required by the Constitution to draw them. And that's, I've heard Speaker Voss use that line, I don't know how many times, and several others as well. And it's just not true.
First, they try to win on the argument that no one cares, and then the backup position is to say, well, it's our constitutional obligation, and you wouldn't want us to go against that. You know, I think we have pretty well debunked both, and that's why, as Representative Mursa found, when you ask the question fairly of your constituents, and his question was fairly put, you get back an answer as overwhelming as he had. And again, I think he deserves a lot of credit for being honest and upfront and candid with his constituents.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. We're drawing to a close here. Are there any final points, thoughts that you'd like to share with us? And maybe in that too, what gives you hope about this fight that we're engaged in right now?
Well, you give us hope. You know, when we started out, nobody knew anything about this. They didn't know what it was. And now it's commonly discussed in coffee shops and after church and all kinds of other places. And that happens because there are people like you who care, who have been willing to step forward and make a difference. So thank you. And we're winning. Remember that.
Thanks. Tim, any parting thoughts, anything that you feel we haven't covered that you'd like to throw out there?
No, Dale said it well. You know, as I look back over American history, all the great movements started from the bottom up. They were not starting at the top. In other words, in Washington or Madison. And this one's no different. It took women from 1848 to 1920 to get the right to vote. We're hoping it doesn't take us that long on this one, but they won.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just, you know, witness the passing of John Lewis, whose lifetime of commitment has certainly been shown to have made a huge difference for many, many people in this country. And I have no doubt that those people who have gotten behind his beliefs and policies are going to be successful in the long run. And that's what democracy is about. And we just have to have determination.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, we're certainly not giving up here. We're just getting started. So awesome. Thank you so much. It's so valuable having your perspective. And just so everyone else knows on the call, we did have the opportunity of interviewing Dale and Tim for an entire hour earlier, well, last week, and that'll be up on our team dashboard for everyone to see. So thanks again very much, Tim and Dale. Feel free to stay if you have time. We've got 15 more minutes that we're gonna wrap up our call, or feel free to check out whenever you need to. But thank you so much. We really, really appreciate your time, your commitment.
I'd sure rather stay, but I have to go to the dentist, so I would certainly rather stay.
Well, thank you. You create a great day for yourselves.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. I hope that was really helpful to everyone. And our plan is to have guest speakers every month so that we can all ask questions and hopefully increase our understanding of how gerrymandering works and what we can do to fix it. So next, I'd like to pass the floor to Douglas, who's going to talk to us about relational organizing.
Yeah, thanks, Janelle. You're going to advance slides for me?
Yep.
Oh, great. So it's quite simple. The principle revolves around friends talking to friends. As we just heard, the after church meeting, the coffee shop gathering of people that you know, they're people that you trust. If someone talks to you about an issue and you trust them, you're over the hurdle of convincing. So in this relational organizing, if we talk to our friends and we've got a core group of people committed to an issue and we reach out to a few people, each of the core team reaches out to another network, and then that network of people reaches out to another level, we can quickly multiply the impact of just a few concerned individuals. So we refer to this as the snowflake model. And this photo on the right of this slide is Cesar Chavez on the left. And this amazing researcher, Marshall Gens, who did a lot of thinking about this issue of how to convince and move the dial. This was a very successful model that was used in the both Obama elections. So if we take one specific example, so today we've got 20 some people on this call, not quite 50, but that would generate 4,000 instead of 10,000. But the idea being that if each of us on this call today go to this website that's highlighted here in this slide, our voter pledge form, and this is the form that just communicates that whoever you're talking to is committed to the idea of nonpartisan voting districts. That's simple. So if each one of us reach out to 10 people, and we commit each of those people that we reach out to also reach another 10 people, and each of them bring in a friend to also sign this pledge form, then we could have somewhere around 4,000 signatures on this form by the end of the week. And Janelle is committed to updating this as we go. So it doesn't happen instantaneously as you add your pledge, but it will be there on this. I think if we go to the next slide, there's, this is the form. It takes about a minute to fill this out, to put your name and what county you're from. And that just says you're committed. The final slide of my series here is related to a whole nother pledge on our Western Wisconsin Nonpartisan Voting District initiative is this, these two tables that indicate what our county senators and representatives, where they stand on this issue of the fair maps. And our legislative team will be updating this, and the beauty of this system is that we can gather signatures based on counties, and then we can report back to our legislative team, and they will then work with the legislators and ensure that they are aware of all these people that support the nonpartisan voting district. So that's it in a nutshell. And
thank you, Douglas. Yeah, thank you. So the idea is, if we talk to people we know, they're going to trust us more than talking to a stranger. And the more people that we can get on board and passionate about this, the more pressure, the more support we can apply, and our efforts will have more impact. So don't hesitate to bring more people on board, tell them about it, ask them to sign the pledge. Thank you. Cool. Anne Marie's going to get us caught up on the People's Map Commission.
Yeah, hi. You'll advance the slide. Yeah, there we go. So we talked about this in our last meeting. Janelle gave everyone an update about the People's Map Commission. And this is set by Governor Evers. It's a commission that will advise on the maps to the legislature. So they will only be an advisory. They won't actually be able to confirm the maps. The members of the commission are going to attend public hearings. They're going to learn about map drawing and best practices. They're going to listen to redistricting experts as well as the local voters to understand what matters to the people, and making decisions on how the maps should be drawn, and actually produce maps that they will present to the legislator as what they believe is the fair maps. There's 9 members of this committee. There will be 9 members. The application deadline was last Friday. So I have no idea how many people have actually applied. I tried to email I did email the Governor Evers' office to see what their timeline is, but we haven't heard back. I haven't heard anything back from them. Can we go to the next slide?
Yeah.
So there will be hearings in every congressional district, so all 8 of them. And these meetings are going to start September 21st, so it's coming right up. And can we go to the next slide? these meetings will start in September and then end in April. So you'll have each district. And what we're hoping to do is to have members attend each one of these meetings. They're going to be on Zoom. They'll be educational for the people to attend, because hopefully we'll learn more about map drawing. Carlene is helping to organize us and host panels of local people to help us identify how gerrymandering affects issues in our region. So for each district, we're hoping that those people show up for these hearings on the Zoom meetings and express their concerns over gerrymandering, so that the commission hears it and the legislators will actually hear that concern. And there will be training for those who want to actually testify at these hearings. And right now, everything is kind of loose because we don't even know who the commissioners will be yet. But what we would like to do is have anyone that's interested in attending these Zoom meetings and learning more and interacting with the commission, if you would just let us know through however Janelle tells us to do it, that I would like to help Carlene and organize ourselves so that we can show up at these meetings and be effective.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Anne Marie. Yeah, I'm going to share a survey with you at the end, and all you have to do is check a box if you want to participate with these hearings for the People's Map Commission and get training and learn more. So thank you. Awesome. And what's great about these maps is that even though they're advisory, if the Republicans make a map that's highly gerrymandered, then we'll have this People's Map Commission to compare it to, and we can say, okay, we have this that the Republicans are proposing, and we have this that this nonpartisan committee from the People's Maps Commission has created, and what do we want? Like, so it's a really great tool to put pressure on Republicans to make a non-gerrymandered map. So awesome. Cool. All right. So what's coming up next? We're going to run through a few things here real quickly. I wanted to let you know that because we're creating a lot of materials in our project, can everyone see the website here? Yeah. We're creating a lot of new materials, and there are a lot of teams doing different things. So to help us keep track of what's going on, I've created a volunteer dashboard. So if you go to our website, which I'll put in the chat right now, if you go to our website, you can click on this button here that says WWNVD Volunteer Dashboard. It'll take you to a page. First, it'll ask you for a password. I have it saved, so I'll come back and tell you what the password is. It'll take you to a page where there's information about our upcoming meetings. You can submit an item to be added to this dashboard. And I have information for each team, which doesn't have much in there now, but as we're creating more things, I encourage you to submit an item, and then I'll put it up on this dashboard. And so this can be a place for us to have all of our information. We have information about our past meetings, so you can go to the slides after this call. I'll put the recording from this call and the slides. So this is really a place that we can use for all of us to keep track of where we're at and what we're doing. So in summary, go to our website, click on the volunteer dashboard. The password to get in is Fair Maps Now, just as I have it up here in the top right corner. So capital F, capital M, capital N with an exclamation point. So Fair Maps Now, that's the password to get you into the dashboard. And back to Anne Marie.
So I would like to make an announcement that the League of Women Voters, the Greater Chippewa Valley, is going to have an educational forum on August 25th at 7 p.m. Over Zoom. And the topic is casting your vote in Wisconsin. I know this is a reminder, if you haven't cast your vote today for today's election, please go out and do so. But this one will help us get ready for the fall election. The issues we're going to talk about would be absentee voting, voter and ballot security, recent and pending changes in the voting protocols. We have a lot of questions that have been asked that we'll ask the speakers to answer. And it will also be our league meeting. So there'll be a very short business meeting at the end. So the panelists will be myself, Cheryl Miller, who's a very knowledgeable clerk from the town of Red Cedars, so she administers all the voting. Julie Waskey, the Dunn County clerk, and she will be discussing security issues, and Deborah Cronmiller, who's the executive director for the League of Women Voters in Wisconsin, will give us an overview on recent and pending changes. So we're hoping that this will help educate the voters and get everyone kicked off for the fall voting season.
Awesome.
We
And
will
do
be
we,
sending out information, the link to register on Zoom. We'll get that out to everybody via email, and then have links that you can, we'll put it on a Facebook page, and all that is pending and will be out this week.
awesome. Thank you. We can add that to the dashboard too.
Yes, yeah, good.
And next, Kathleen.
Thanks, Janelle. Hey everyone, I'm Kathleen, and I also work for the Wisconsin Farmers Union. And I just wanted to share a couple things. One thing is we've been starting an effort to do deep canvassing and some different issues around the state. And one of the issues that our members decided was a priority was to work on fair maps. And so the our Dunn County chapter is going to be doing a deep canvas effort. We just finished our trainings a week or two ago, and are starting to make calls this week. And I guess a little bit about what's different from regular canvassing versus deep canvassing is it's really based on a two-way authentic conversation, and really trying to talk about personal experiences over policy and eliciting shared values between the two people. And so it was developed by this group in California, and it's been studied, and it works. It's really effective. It takes longer to have these conversations, but they really work. And what else was I going to say about that? Yeah, we're just really excited about it. We're going to have another training in the first week of September, and if you're interested in learning more, we have an info session on August 26th from 7 to 8 p.m. We're doing it over the phone to be, safer right now. And yeah, I'd love to have you join us. So there's my email's on there. Also, Rachel Henderson, her email's on there. She's the leader of the Farmers Union Dunn chapter. So you can reach out to either of us if you want to know more, learn more. And then also Janelle put a link to a video that the Wisconsin Farmers Union produced last month about fair maps. So it's a short, I don't know if it's like maybe 3 minutes long or something like that. And it's really useful if people don't really know about gerrymandering and they want to learn more about how it affects us, specifically in Wisconsin. So.
Thank you, Kathleen. Awesome. Yeah, deep canvassing is a really powerful tool, so I encourage you to check it out. I'm going to just breeze through these super quickly because we've run out of time. The town of Barron is going to have the referendum on the ballot, which is great news. Yard signs that say ending gerrymandering are going to become available in a couple weeks. I'll put that up on the dashboard. We can figure out how to get one. I'm putting in the chat right now, if you're new to this group today, please take this survey. The link is in the chat to tell us how you'd like to be involved and give us your information so we can reach out to you. Also, if you want to be involved with the People's Map Commission, there's a question on that survey for that. So you can just take the survey, put your name in there, contact info, and that you're interested in the People's Map Commission, and then we'll get you hooked up with Carlene and the efforts to train people for that. So grab the survey link right out of the chat and fill that up if you can right after the call, or start right now. It's literally just a minute. You'll fill that out. So thank you. If you have any ideas about speakers you'd like for the next meeting, let me know. Next meeting is on September 8th. And that's it for today. So thank you very much, everyone, for being on this call. I hope you found it really helpful. We really appreciate everyone's efforts. We recorded it because a lot of people are working at the polls today. So they'll get a chance to hear it later. And so I invite everyone to take yourselves off of mute, and we're gonna do another send off. Just so you have it engraved in your mind, the password for our dashboard is Fair Maps Now with the capitalized letters as you see it in an exclamation point. So I invite you all on the count of 3 to say Fair Maps Now, and we'll say goodbye for the day. All right, thank you everyone. 1, 2, 3. Fair Maps Now. Bye everyone.
Thank you, Janelle.
Thank you. Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.